Hey everybody, this is Chris DeFurio with Keys to the Shop. Welcome to another edition of Shift Break. Today's episode is brought to you by the Ground Control Cyclops Brewer from Voga Coffee. This brewer is absolutely a revolutionary brewer. It elevates your batch brew coffee above even your best pour-over coffee, but it does it at scale. And the thing about the Ground Control Brewer is that it gives you an unprecedented amount of control over such a wide variety of flavors. Truly, I think you'll be shocked at just how much it can pull from a coffee that you thought you knew, but the Ground Control brings you deeper, and it gives your customers an elevated experience. Not only that, but it's really beautiful to look at and easy to use. You can train your staff on this very easily. The Ground Control Brewer from Voga Coffee is used by some of the best operators out there, and I recommend that you become one of them because this really can change the game for your coffee. So go to vogacoffee.com for more information. If you want to take your coffee to the next level, you want to give your customers a really engaging experience, then this is the brewer to get. vogacoffee.com. This episode is also brought to you by the wonderful folks over at Baratza. Baratza designs precision burr grinders with a small footprint that's perfect for both home and commercial environments. I've been using their products ever since getting into coffee 20 years ago, and they're just an amazing company. They've built a really solid reputation for manufacturing innovative grinders with a goal of evolving them to meet the needs of our industry that's really always changing. But no matter what you're choosing to brew with, Baratza has a grinder that fits that brew method perfectly. They really work hard to make sure that their customers find the grinders easy to use, reliable, and really helps them make great tasting coffee, which is what it's all about. And especially now when we're buying so much coffee at home, the perfect thing that you can do for your customers is get them a Baratza grinder and facilitate their success with your coffee. So to find out more information about the range of grinders that Baratza offers and experience some of the best customer service on the planet, go to baratza.com. That's BARATZA.com. Okay, so today I wanted to talk a little bit about something that I've heard come up a lot over the past month or so since this crisis has taken such a toll on our industry, and that is the sentiment that we are letting people down. This comes mainly from owners that are having to shutter their businesses, mostly temporarily and some permanently, some locations closing permanently. And the range of emotion that happens out, there's anxiety, the frustration, anger, and this depressive feeling of letting people down. And I wanted to talk about this today because it's not something that has just shown up out of the blue. This circumstance has highlighted it, but in some ways, this is something that we are prone to do in service, and that is we don't give ourselves the luxury of reflecting on the things that we do well and the impact that we make on the people that we serve. Oftentimes, I find this true for myself with this podcast, with roles that I've had in the cafe before, when I'm thinking about staff that I've led as a manager or people I've trained, stores that I've managed, things like that. And the idea is that I'm kind of always dancing close to the edge of disappointing somebody. So I have to work harder. I have to do more. I have to create new experiences and, attain more feedback. And if they keep coming back to the cafe, if they keep doing well at their job, if they are, thriving on the bar, then it lets me know that I haven't let them down. Never really bearing in mind that they have responsibility for their own ranges of emotions that oftentimes don't really involve me or you. So where I'm going with this is that people generally like you more than you think they do. This is something I think that's universal in human nature. Sometimes people will think people like them more than they actually do. And some, that might be a little bit of ego right there. But most of us, I think, have a little bit more self-deprecation than others who, consider us would ever think. They would never think the things about us that we think about ourselves or the things we do. This is true if you share your feelings about your performance with your friends and family, and they kind of put their head to the side and say, "What are you talking about? That doesn't enter my mind." Half of that is they have their own lives to worry about, so they're not obsessing about you the way you are obsessing about you. And that's just something I have to remind myself about when I put out an episode, or you just do a talk at a conference or something like that. I'm always nervous because I don't want to let people down, and that's just kind of my diet as a professional. That's just become what I live on, and I don't necessarily think that it's healthy. And I'm not telling you anything new necessarily, that it's not healthy, but I have to believe, and I think I know, and I've even been there and lived there myself a little bit, where you can show up for people and serve them well without obsessing about or worrying about letting them down. Now, let's get to the point of where we are today. An extreme circumstance where all of the mechanisms that we've got have been halted. These are the mechanisms that allow us to know that we're doing a good job, and they've been removed, and we have nothing underneath us. It's like the rug's been pulled out from underneath us, and we're nothing, And so that feeling, that unsettling feeling of not having any positive feedback of a full store, or new reviews coming in that are glowing about the service they received, smiles on the staff faces, there's all of these little cues that we've used throughout our time as professionals to let us know that we're doing a good job. And that's legit. I think that's really something that we're always going to have, and it's a feedback mechanism that I think is valuable. But at the same time, I don't think that is complete. Part of it is the fact that we just don't have enough time in the day, and nor do we make enough time in the day to think about the deep impact that our service has had on the lives of the people that are involved with our brand, the cafe. So the customers that come in, that make memories in the cafe, they meet loved ones, family members, celebrate. It's become a part of their lives. Staff who have pretty much professionally grown up in some cafes, and just developed as baristas and as managers and other things within the organization. We don't really allow ourselves enough time to think about all the good that we have done, and we rely on almost like I'm trying to figure out how to say this, but it's as if we seek out with purpose the negative and the things that need to be worked on, but we want to be surprised by and quote unquote accidentally run into these praises for what we're doing. I'm not saying that you need to go around and be like, "Oh, how great I am," but structurally speaking, there has to be a part of what you do that reflects on the good, reflects on the positive. And I think that will help us in this time realize that we haven't let people down. In fact, we've spent an enormous amount of our lives lifting people up beyond where they could have been lifted up without our coffee shop, without the interactions that all of the work we put into creating the coffee experience that we've created has provided for them. When that's not there, we feel we've let them down. Ask yourself, is that what people are actually thinking? Do they feel let down? Are they upset at you? No, they're not. They're upset at maybe circumstance, especially now because we're all in this together. Even in times where it isn't universal drudgery for specialty coffee, it is still the case that people will be upset at the circumstance when, for instance, a raw deal goes down with a landlord, or something happens to the cafe, like there's a cafe fire, and you might think, well, I could have prevented the fire, so I'm letting people down. But really, that's more us beating ourselves up than living in reality. And we're really, really good at that. We're not good enough at living in the reality of the positive that's more real than the negative that we imagine. And actually, that fuels us. We've allowed ourselves to be fueled by fear, by negativity, by worst-case scenarios. And I think right now is a good time to wrestle with these things. And I'm not a psychologist. I can't walk anybody through these emotions, although I would recommend reaching out to somebody. But for my part, as somebody who experiences these emotions a lot, I just want to tell you that you've got to keep the outlook more focused on what you can do right now to continue serving people, and also reflect on the good that your organization and that you yourself and your staff have done for people. Allow yourself the feeling of pride of what you've accomplished. Even now that you're not able to accomplish it the way that you were, you're not letting people down. You're working on how you're going to serve them in a different way. There's all these things that go into your shop that you desperately want people to experience, because you're in this mainly for the people. So everything that we're feeling right now is completely natural and understandable, but it needs to be balanced and rooted in reality. And a reality is not devoid of optimism or positivity. We've got to create time and space in our own minds, in our schedules even, to think about those types of things, think about the good that we've done, and allow that to shape the way that we think of how people are thinking of us. That if a shop closes down in the midst of this crisis, you've served them well. But contrary to what you feel about yourself, you won't be derided. You won't be held to account as the one who, spread a virus around the globe. That's just not the way it is, okay? I think it's important to wrestle with these emotions. And again, it's completely natural to think these things. But to what degree do we obsess about this? So in conclusion, I just want to encourage you. You've done a way better job than you'll allow yourself to admit. It's time to start allowing yourself. You've made more impact than you could possibly imagine. And I think you need to take this time to start imagining that. You've done so much good for your community, and you don't allow yourself the time to think about it. Now is the time to think about that. Allow it to create momentum for you right now, to balance yourself. If you're still in the fight and you're going to reopen and you're trying to stay open, you can serve well with what you can do right now. So I hope that you found this episode to be helpful. I hope that this is an encouragement to you. This is a hard time for sure, but realize that people love you. You're doing an amazing job, and you're going to continue doing so. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I will see you here next week on another edition of Shift Break, from keys to the shop.